What's up everybody, Alex here, and today we have another patch analysis for the new patch released on August 1st. And one thing I will say is I'm filming this late Friday night, and they already released an update to that update. So, honestly, kudos to the team. They are legitimately doing a fantastic job. They are working the overnight shift in order to make sure that we have ourselves an awesome experience in game. So let's talk about the major changes here, and we'll take note that the major gameplay change here was the Demon Hunter Alliance, that the pure damage has been changed to level 2 of the Alliance only, but it's been increased to 50%. So, going back to the update, this is a huge one. It's probably the biggest one. We talked about the last one being the biggest one, but I think this is the most meta-defining shift the game has seen yet. So first of all, head-to-head plays. So what you're going to have here is the players in the game are going to be playing against each other directly. This has a lot of implications. The first, it creates a layer of consistency throughout the entire experience of the game. So if you have a shared board, you're not going to have a circumstance where, for instance, you beat them on yours and you're first and he's second. You beat him on yours and then he beats you on his too, so it's a stalemate and no one actually does anything. The shared game state allows for much more interesting things to happen, and one thing I will add is it might allow for something in the future that's a better tiebreaker than the current system we have. As of right now, when you lose a match, if say you and someone else are eliminated in the same round, it's just whoever dies first, like literally on their board, loses and is fourth, and then if the other person survives a second longer than you, they're third. So in this way, with the head-to-head, perhaps you can even do something where if someone's eliminated at the end of the round and they're eliminated with someone else, they can take the head-to-head statistics. For instance, if I beat that guy 3 times out of 5, I'll get the tiebreaker win and he'll be eliminated. So there's a lot of different things that can be done with this head-to-head. This is a bigger change than I think some people give it credit for. Really happy to see that. It does create a lot of consistency in the game. The new ranked system. Alright, so now we have a new ranked system here. It's designed to allow things to be much more predictable. Let's shift to that now. Alright, so on the screen here you have basically how your finishing place in a game will affect your rank. So if you finish first, you're getting 100 points, second 75, and so forth. Essentially, you're always aiming to podium, really. You always want to be in the top 3. That means you're always making progress. Fourth and 5th, you don't really want to be there. They're not major swings. Definitely don't want to be 8th, obviously. But this is a good change as well. The one thing that kind of struck me was that MMR is not really... So if you're in a game, for instance, with higher MMR players, your match position is the only thing that matters. It takes no account to the fact that, for instance, you're playing, against players who are technically have higher MMR than you. That benefits those players too, because if you upset them, then they lose less rank. So there's pluses and minuses to it. I'm sure they'll be tweaking the system, but as of right now, this is a system we have. We'll have to see how it works. Time will tell with a system like this. Is it an improvement over the last one? It most certainly is, because the last one had absolutely no transparency. We had no idea what was causing us to rank up. I had multiple times where I went up 2 full ranks at once. So this will allow for a lot more transparency. Alright, so continuing with the changes, we have a new casual mode. This is going to allow people to test new strategies without affecting their rank. I would benefit from this, considering I test a ton of strategies. Actually, when I play, I literally am focusing on testing new strategies. I don't focus so much on the rank up. I focus on finding new awesome strategies to share with you guys. So the new casual mode is pretty interesting for me. And it should be for you too. It allows you to experiment and not affect your rank, particularly if you're high ranked, right? Because if you're in, if you're in the big boss games, you don't want to be trying, crazy strategies, that could definitely affect your rank. So that's a nice change as well. Of course, we do have an update to the ranking system we just spoke about, but the major thing is new players will have to play 5 casual games in order to be slotted. So that's basically like your placement matches. That's consistent with a lot of games doing placement matches, but essentially being slotted into an appropriate level. That's great. The only thing is, of course, is that anybody that has already played a game will be grandfathered into their current position. So no need to play 5 casual games if you've already played this game before. The Proto Pass XP has been boosted by achievements, and achievements are a ton of fun. I'm glad they added them. This was a change that actually I wasn't expecting. I had no idea that they were going to implement achievements. This is a great way to increase the progress through the Proto Pass. I thought the Proto Pass was going a little slow, so this is great. I do like that. They have been tweeting a bunch of changes to heroes. I'll link down below to the official Dota Underlords Twitter where they tweeted a whole bunch of changes about how their heroes are going to look in different stages, 1, 2, and 3 stars. These are all the heroes that have had updates. They look absolutely phenomenal. This is actually huge. So the gameplay change about the rounds and the way the damage is calculated. So now you have a situation where rounds 4 to 9, your first few rounds where you're fighting against opponents, the first 3 rounds, remember, are creep waves, and 10's a creep wave as well. Now you get reduced damage. So when the last patch, they implemented 1 additional damage through the first 5 rounds there from 4 to 9. And people kind of were a little disappointed because it made controlling your economy a little more difficult, in the sense that it was harder to get to 50 gold to kind of cash in on that interest, and also the games became shorter. And so people want to test around with the idea of perhaps reducing the damage early game, and this is what Valve came up with. And you know what, I have to say I politely kind of disagree with this, and the only reason why is this line right here. Whenever a player loses a round against another player, they gain a reroll, a free reroll for the next round. It's not stackable, so use it or lose it. What I would have liked to have seen is perhaps one or the other. I would maybe have suggested, and I think you're going to see, they're probably tracking this for sure. They're taking data on this. I can see the damage being added again. So you are doing 1 additional damage for every round 4 to 9 loss, but you're also getting the reroll. I think getting both no damage and a reroll is a little too much. You're going to find that people are going to be throwing the first 4 or 5 rounds of the game just so they can get free rerolls. So this will probably get tweaked a little bit. I can see the damage coming back, but the reroll existing. I think the reroll, the free reroll on loss, is actually a pretty interesting catch-up mechanic. I'd like to see that perhaps implemented throughout the entire range of the game. Not even just the first 10 rounds. Why not do it the whole game? It's a very interesting catch-up mechanic. One thing I should say though, 2 gold is not the same as a free reroll, because 2 gold allows you to get your economy ramped up faster. A free reroll actually encourages you to spend money on a new hero, which actually slows your economy down. So Valve did a really good job kind of planning this. A lot of people are saying, oh, it's 2 free gold every round. It's not. It's the opportunity to spend gold to catch up. So those of you that have been kind of thinking, well, it's just going to allow people to kind of get their economies jump started, that's not really the case. I don't think that's the intention here. I can see why you would think that on first read, but in actuality, I think it does actually keep the economy in check by encouraging the losing player to get that reroll and spend money on a hero. So that's, anyways, a very interesting change. I would like to see what comes from that there. Let's move on here. So, oh, these are just fixes. Let's move on from the fixes here. And the UI stuff, yes. Let's talk about these hero changes, okay? Crystal Maiden. So, not a rarity change. She's not a rare hero, still uncommon, but the gold has been changed from 2 to 3. This is the first time they've done this. This is really interesting. So basically, Crystal Maiden's going to cost more, but still come up in the carousel just as often as before. She's also received a buff in terms of her health, which is quite interesting. Juggernaut will only cast Blade Fury when he's surrounded by 2 enemies. That's a huge buff. People glaze over this like, okay, whatever, who cares? That's a huge buff. Juggernaut's auto attack was buffed the last patch, and it actually has a higher DPS than his Blade Storm. So if he's not surrounded by enemies, if he's one-on-one with an enemy, Blade Storming is a waste of time. He's going to be doing more DPS with his auto attack. So this is a great change. I'm glad they made this kind of change. This goes to show you that they're really willing to kind of dig deep into each hero's mechanics in order to make sure that they make the most sense. Lina, much like Crystal Maiden, has had the rarity remain the same, but the gold cost changed from 3 to 2. Very interesting. Lina is an underperforming mage. Her Laguna Blade ultimate ability was just buffed. Is 1 extra gold off per purchase worth it? It's hard to say. Time will tell. I'm willing to test Lina out. She's a great hero. A little underpowered right now, but maybe with a little bit of an economy incentive here, maybe it'll be worth getting her in, at least earlier perhaps. Ogre Magi's Bloodlust has been buffed. That's actually awesome. And this is funny in a way, because I think this is a backhand way of saying, hey, stop sacrificing your Ogre Magi. Because in a lot of the Bloodbound builds, which are going to get nerfed for sure. I know you're probably seeing crazy videos of like of contracted kind of assassin teams just sweeping guys. But so Ogre Magi has been buffed here. He gets a little more utility all throughout. Bloodlust is a great ability, and I think that the longer Ogre Magi is up, the more he is bloodlusting, especially if you have like a reduced cooldown item on him. that's fantastic, and I think that it makes a lot of sense. This is a good change. It makes a lot of sense. As is the Shadow Fiend change. It had to get nerfed. Shadow Fiend had to get nerfed. The reduced attack range does make him a little more vulnerable, but realistically, that's not a crazy change. But yes, the actual width of the projectile has been changed because it was supposed to be whoever gets caught on the board. What it actually is literally everyone who's on the board. I've never seen Shadow Fiend really miss his ult, so this is definitely a nerf to Shadow Fiend because he was almost an auto-include in so many builds, especially with Warlock being as effective as they are. This had to get done. Venomancer, it's a nerf. It had to happen as well. Venomancer was way too strong for a tier 1 hero. And so now instead of getting 3 spawns at 3 wards spawned at level 3, you're keeping with the 1 but with increased damage. What's interesting about this is, as it was by design, the 1-1-3 kind of star spread with the number of wards being spawned was kind of uneven and strange. You'd expect maybe 1, 2, and 3. The one thing I will say though, this is a nerf that I'm sure they're going to fix because the 1 here at level 3 still has the increased cooldown. So the cooldown is increasing at every single stage, at every single kind of level he increases. So at 3-star he has an increased cooldown. So that needs to probably be changed. The cooldown should probably be consistent, and just the power should increase. Witch Doctor, Paralyzing Cask had to get nerfed. With such a short cooldown, it was an automatic include in so many builds, even if you weren't running Warlocks. And that little bouncy thing going around stunning everyone, it was so disruptive. So it had to get changed. Actually, I called it out in one of my previous videos saying it was low-key one of the strongest ults in the game. So I've been pretty consistent with these calls out, by the way. So anyways, Witch Doctor, that had to get changed. Item changes. This is absolutely phenomenal. This is one of the absolute best changes of the game. So you're removing some of the ones that really made no sense. And well, Recruiter made a lot of sense, but Recruiter was being abused because it was stackable and stuff like that. But a bunch of good items here. They make sense. So basically, what you're doing is you have increased armor and surviving after a killing blow. That's interesting for both warriors, which are tanking, and for assassins. Like a PA can get another 2-3 shots in. You know, a Slark can get a few extra shots in. Braces of Desperation, very interesting as well for mages. Mages need a bit of a boost. A lot of people think that you know, they're a little weak right now, and they are. So this is a great item for a mage. Poaching Knife, that's pretty interesting. It got fixed in the hot fix today, and the Dawning of Ritzel here. That's actually really interesting as well. The idea that both crews get reduced healing, because if you're seeing lots of like Warlock builds or Druid builds, and you know you have like this is a boost to like assassins and elusives and stuff like that, because they don't focus so much on the healing element, so that the teams that do like Warlocks are now receiving that nerf. So really interesting change. And the item changes here, obviously with Chainmail getting buffed. This is the one I'll call out here. These ones are all great changes. I'm glad to see the increased health on Big Time Contract. That makes some units a little more viable with it. It's a little bit more of a boost, because nothing's more annoying than someone getting boosted and then just dying immediately. Chainmail, low-key, awesome. Okay, going from 7 back up to 10 armor. That is one of the items that scales so wonderfully in this game. Chainmail, whether you take it early or you take it late, it scales because armor is basically effectively health. And the more health you have on a level 3 hero, the more that armor is going to contribute, so to speak. So great changes. Everything's kind of getting evened up. Hooded Defiance from 3 to 1. No one was picking it at tier 3 anyways. The Octarine had to get changed. That's the cooldown stuff I was talking about. That with the Witch Doctor change was so necessary. And you know what? Force Staff still sucks. Don't pick it. Now these are great. Alliance changes. So now the Alliance stuff has been changed. So instead of picking the Alliance items, which are horribly inconsistent with RNG, oh, the RNG was too much of a factor. Now what you have is the actual Alliance changes themselves incorporate a lot of those items that were being kind of picked to synergize with it. Elusive is kind of silly. All Elusives gains 75%, and it changes to all units get 75%, but it's a 9 hero alliance. So that basically means that whatever 10th hero you have, which we're not even really getting to level 10 anyway, will have evasion too. So you're getting evasion for 1 extra hero if you're at level 10, which is very unlikely right now. What I think you're likely to see is this get changed. For instance, like it'll probably be like all units are getting evasion, but your elusive units will get like 25% and everyone else will get 10%. So you might see like a staggered type of bonus like that, where at the level 2 of the Alliance, all elusive units get 40 and everyone else gets 20. That makes a little more sense than this. This will get changed. I don't feel like this is a good design here. And the Warlock Link, again, the healing had to get nerfed a bit, and Warlocks kind of took a bit of a beating with this patch here. Brawny, oh, okay, I'm so excited about Brawny. This change is unbelievable. It makes taking Brawnies early in the game so worthwhile. This Brawny one right here, this has me so excited. I can't wait to get some strategies going with Brawny. Actually, the video that I'll link above, and that it was easily the best win I've ever had, and it was with Brawny. Brawny has so much potential in this game, and this is a huge buff. Savage. All right, so Savages. Basically, everyone's getting the stackable bleed damage. That was the most powerful part of Savage. It's kind of sad because I thought that the blanket increase to damage was interesting. I thought that was a good mechanic, but the bleed damage does make sense as well. What made Savage so strong was having the bonus attack damage and the bleed on top of each other. So this is a nerf to some of you guys that had the incredible RNG of having the Savage buff at like 25% and having the global item. So this makes a lot of sense. It's a good change. And the Shaman change, it had to happen. The Hex of Silences and Stuns generating negative 200 mana. It made no sense because even if someone's stunned or you know, kind of silenced, if they're taking damage, they're still gaining mana, and so it was like, it really did not have much of an effect. So it only really worked if someone was taking no damage and their mana was ticking away, but otherwise guys were still coming out of their silence and popping their ults anyways. So this is a little more interesting, and the hopping 4 cells in random direction, don't underestimate how impactful that can be. Primordials, okay, so basically they spawn their primordials now, the little mini ones, and that's fine. That's fine. That's a change that makes sense. The change they had just made last week with the attack speed slow wasn't gaining too much traction. This makes more sense. I'll be interested to try it. I don't think primordials are back, but we'll have to see. Inventors. Okay, Inventors don't get their health regeneration, which I actually liked. It's kind of sad to see them lose that, but they're getting the explosive damage, and that's huge. Especially since if, for instance, the Clockwork on the front line explodes, does 30% damage of their health to damage, and you have, you know, ranged or mages behind them just finishing off. Someone like a Keeper of the Light could easily wipe a team if 30% of Clockwork's damage has been health has been applied to damage to those units around him. So very interesting changes. Demon Hunters have been changed, so now it's now the tier 2, so I'll scroll back up for that. So basically the Demon Hunters have been changed. Where's my little mouse? Here it is. Here it is. So Demon Hunters, so it's only level 2 of the Alliance, and now it's 50% for all Demon Hunters, regardless of how many number of demons are on board. And that's interesting because I think that Terrorblade and Anti-Mage are some of the most reliable openings you can have. If you have Terrorblade and Anti-Mage working together, those are two units that can basically be splashed and do any alliance combination. They're super effective, so I'm going to be experimenting with them as well. Happy to see that change. That's a very good change as well. What's the last one here? Assassins. So Assassin at 9 heroes. In addition to the existing bonuses, all Assassins blind enemies when they land. That's interesting. 9 heroes is a lot. Assassins do get normally 9 heroes. Elusives don't generally, but Assassins, you can do a 9 hero Assassin build, but it's kind of unlikely. But anyways, interesting. These are great changes, and I really want to hear what you guys think in the comments. I think the most interesting changes, honestly, if I had to pick one or two, the changes to Maiden and Lena. The idea that now we're moving away from just pure rarity changes. So, you know, rare units are 3 gold and epic units are 4 gold. Now we have a rarity being consistent, but the cost changing. That's a very interesting change. I'd be interested to see if they stick to that. Anyways, guys, very interesting notes. I can't wait to give this a shot. I'm going to be playing a ton of Overlords over the weekend, and expect a guide and some coverage of this game coming this coming week. Thank you so much to all my subscribers. I do appreciate every single one of you. Have yourselves a wonderful day.